Hello. Today we'll be making 3 stuffed green bell peppers. We'll be using an 8-ounce thing of ground beef. You can also use pork, ground chicken, or turkey also in this. Lamb, whatever you want to grind up or buy ground, you can. We'll also use 8 ounces of spaghetti sauce instead of tomato sauce. We'll be seasoning our meat with Mrs. Dash, black pepper, and garlic. We'll also be using about between a 1/2 cup and 3/4 cup of brown pre-cooked rice. And this dish is going to be prepared for my parents, so I will be showing you also how to core the center out of a green bell pepper without having all the excess seeds in the bottom to keep you from having to do double the work. And then also I'll give you a few tips on how to use those pepper tops that are so perfectly cut off of the tops of those bell peppers in other dishes or for pure freezer storage if nothing else. But we'll discuss that later. In the meantime, we'll go ahead. We're going to get the rice started boiling. And I'll see you back here in a few minutes. Okay, what we have here, as I mentioned, I'll be doing 3 green bell peppers. We have our 8-ounce thing of ground beef. We have our garlic, 8 ounces of spaghetti sauce or black pepper, using Mrs. Dash. This is a grilling blend, but it's a lot of those Mrs. Dash you can substitute and use pretty much whatever for meat. Here's our bell peppers. Now these here have already been cut open and cored per se. This one is a whole one. I'll be showing you here in a second how to get that off of there. Get those seeds out. And basically, you're just going to cut this. I'm left-handed, so hopefully this will work well. Okay. All right. Now, there you have this deal that looks like that. Got a little ring here from the stem, and then a piece of stem. Those you can toss. Basically, to get that center out of there, you basically just want to go around the edges like that. 1, 2, there's 4 edges here, usually in a bell pepper it should be. Not work with 3 if it's an irregular bell pepper. And basically, this is all you do. Pull that out. See, you have very few seeds down in there. It's 1 or 2. These have already been washed. So, that there, and we just give it a shake over the sink. There you have an empty green bell pepper, very quick. Now, what we do with these tops, you can cut these up, put in salads or whatever. I basically process them down. I usually process down onions and bell peppers, and I put them in a little small sandwich bag, and I always have those readily available for cooking, so that way I don't have to chop things up unless I want something in a salad or a dish where I want the veggies to be a little crispy, or I'll cut them fresh. So basically, that's 3 nice rings of bell pepper. Some people toss them, but I don't like to waste stuff, as you've probably heard. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get our meat started and come back once it's about done and get these babies thrown together. Our rice should be down in a few minutes here also. Okay, so we have our ground beef, and when I put ground beef in a skillet, I usually try to break it up just a little bit instead of putting a large hunk in there. Okay, go ahead and put our garlic in there. Season it with the Mrs. Dash. Thing about the Mrs. Dash, it's no salt, but you have to add a little bit extra to get that salt-like flavor. Then we'll add our pepper. We're a little light on pepper. My mom isn't too fond of spice, and too much black pepper can make a food very spicy. Okay. Now I didn't have that preheated. so it'll sit there for a minute before the cooking actually starts. Okay, get a piece of recycled foil here to put our cooking spoon on. Alright, so see if I can get in a little further. You can kind of see that Mrs. Dash in there, how much seasoning you want to use if you're unsure. Zoom back out. There we go. Okay, so we'll come back once this starts cooking. It looks like our rice is done. Still has some absorption to do, but other than that, it's done. And you can always add a little margarine to your rice to give it a little more flavor, or you can cook your rice. In this case, it was pre-cooked, but you can get it to the completion point by using chicken broth also instead of water. Gives it a little more flavor. But in this case, we're going to have the salt in the spaghetti sauce. I added some Mrs. Dash, which is not actual salt. It's more of a seasoned natural salt with various ingredients. So I didn't want to add chicken broth to that rice to boil it in, because chicken broth is loaded with salt. So basically, we have that. We'll go ahead and let that get started. And you want to put a lid on your pot to lock in the flavors until the meat gets done. Just come back and check it, and then we'll smash it up good, and then we'll drain it and go on and stuff the peppers. Now you're wondering why I'm not steaming these peppers first. The reason being is that I'm going to be preparing these for my parents to eat, and they probably won't eat these until tomorrow or Sunday. So basically, I'm just going to be stuffing the pepper with the pre-cooked food already, and then we'll wrap them in foil. And the spaghetti sauce, we're going to add a little bit in the meat actually when it's done. Excuse me. And then also, I usually just put that in a bowl, a covered bowl, and send it over and just let them kind of put on the amount they want. But we'll be using about 4 of that 8 ounces in the actual ground beef. It looks like this is starting to cook, so we may as well stir this up a little bit. Alright, so we'll come back when this is done and mix our rice and sauce in here and go ahead and stuff the peppers, and then our little meal will be complete. No tasting today because these are not for me, so won't be able to sample anything via the video camera per se for you on that end. Alright, see you shortly. Okay, our meat is done. Now this is just to show you what I did with that bell pepper, those tops. There were 3 of them. This is what it made. Put bell peppers and onions. I put that in a baggie and I'll freeze it. And that way you have this ready for when you go to cook. You can just thaw it out in the refrigerator and then just scoop out what you want and then put it back in the freezer. Okay. So we have our meat ready, and we'll go ahead and pour about 4 ounces of sauce in there. I'm going to leave half of this left over for to give my parents when they have their meal. They can scoop this on their peppers how they like. Okay, so we got that mixed up, and then we're just going to add our rice in there. Nice amount of starch for your carbohydrates in this rice, brown rice here. Okay, and we'll just stir that up. And basically, I'm going to put a lid on this, turn off the eye, and let that set and kind of solidify a little more before I put it in the pepper. I'm going to let it come together a little more. Let some of the flavors get in the rice from the seasonings we used in our meat. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just leave that as is. Now you can always, if you want more sauce or if you're going to eat these right away, I would suggest going ahead pouring this sauce in there. It will be quite a bit, so it just depends on, use your judgment as to how moist you want the peppers to be. And basically when you cook those peppers with the filling in there, once you put them in the oven, you can cook those in some type of a pan where you can put a little bit of water in the bottom of it, like a little small roasting pan perhaps, or one that you would cook a ham in, a small ham. Put about a ½ inch or an inch of water in the bottom, set the peppers down in there, and then cover it good with foil, and they will soften up, and the steam of the water will basically cook the peppers to the softness, the same as if you were to pre-boil them. A lot of times you can pre-boil those bell peppers to get them a little soft. Show you something here. If you notice the coloring of this pepper here, it's a lot darker than say this one. If you notice the two colors, usually when those peppers cook and they get kind of to the point of softness where you can go ahead and eat them, if you like those soft like that with the stuffing in them, they usually are a lighter color, a little bit lighter than this. When they're dark like this, they're usually a lot more firm. We usually like our peppers a little firm, so that's why we don't do the steaming process prior to stuffing them, because we like them more firm, as do my parents. So it's totally up to you. But this way I'm showing you is just how to make the ingredients, stuff a pre-cut bell pepper, and for cooking later, if you do freeze this, I do want to let you know that the pepper will be soft when you unthaw it with the filling of the rice and everything in it. I wouldn't really recommend that because the moisture from the spaghetti sauce, the moisture in the rice, all that is going to turn to ice, and it's not very good. It's very watery, and I wouldn't recommend freezing these, not with the filling in them. And the peppers, if you don't know, when you freeze a bell pepper, it does come back soft. As will my mixed veggies I just did with the onions and peppers. Those will come back soft, but they're good to put in dishes for seasoning, but not good for salads per se. See you in a minute. Okay, now what we have here are the peppers ready to be stuffed. As you can see, this is a little drier. Everything's come together more. It'll be easier to stuff these. Basically, you're just going to take the filling out, put in each of them, kind of pat it down like so. Okay, and we're going to probably just fill them about 3/4 full. That way you know how much you have left to work with, to make sure you have enough filling for all 3 of them. If not, you can either just eat what you have left or throw it away if you choose to, but the rice and the meat is good just by itself. If you want to eat that for a snack, it's a good little healthy snack. Okay, so we got that one. Both of those are about 3/4 full, and it looks like we'll have enough filling to fill these babies up right to the top for all 3. But like I say, you don't want to put too much in there, and then you have enough left for half of a pepper, because once you get it in there to pour it back out and cut the pepper in half, to cut it to save it or whatever, it's up to you, but it's kind of a headache. Okay, so this here, okay, we got just a little meat left in rice, so we're just going to give each one of them another scoop, and just don't pat that down. And you can kind of stir it up a little bit too. If it looks like there's a little bit too much space left over, just kind of stir the pepper up and just bring it back to the top. But like I say, these are getting ready to get wrapped in foil and given to my parents. So there we go. Alright, so got a little bit less in this one, so what I do is just to make it look full. Alright. Okay, there you have it. 3 stuffed bell peppers. And we won't be tasting these today, so with that in mind, they're getting ready to get wrapped in foil and shipped off. See you later. Okay, I failed to mention something to you on the peppers. Here's the 3. They're all stuffed in foil, ready to go. If you do cook your peppers like this and you want to prepare them just in the foil instead of putting them on a pan in the oven, covering them with foil, you can actually cook them just like this. It's actually a good thing because as long as you don't have any openings in your foil, that steam from the moisture in the rice, the meat, and the sauce will actually cook that pepper to a nice tenderness. And if you want to test it, instead of unwrapping it, all you have to do is take a knife or a toothpick and just kind of stick it in the side of the foil once it's been in the oven for say 30 minutes or so, and you can kind of tell the doneness of it. So actually this is a good way to cook the pepper to get it softer, or if you just want a really crunchy pepper, just heat it up on about 300 for about 15-20 minutes and it'll be as crunchy almost as if when it were first stuffed. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. The foil is a great way to cook the pepper, and just as long as you don't have any openings in it, I would suggest putting this maybe on a cookie sheet or a pie pan or something, just in case there's any juice that escapes from the bottom. Alright, thank you, and I hope you enjoy.